You don't have to spend 30,000 Indian rupees or $2,000 just to submit your visa application. Now this section is very important in my opinion because it gives you the opportunity to explain to the visa officer anything that might not be clear from your documents that you're providing. So in this case, I think about $5,000, $6,000 should be enough. But the more amount you have in your bank accounts, the more confidence.
What's up YouTube, it's Shivansh here. A few days back, I made a video on how to convert your Canadian visitor visa into a Canadian work permit. And a lot of you guys commented on that video asking for a video on how to apply for your Canadian visitor visa all by yourself without actually going to a visa consultant and spending $500 all the way up to $2,000 just to apply for a Canadian visitor visa. So I've heard your requests, and in this video I will tell you exactly how you can apply for your Canadian visitor visa all by yourself without paying any extra fees or without going to any agent. We'll discuss everything in detail, starting from how to create an account on the IRCC portal, how to fill out the visitor visa application forms, and what all documents you need to submit to the government of Canada when you're applying for your visitor visa, and then finally submitting your visitor visa application. So make sure to watch this video till the very end, and make sure to also hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel to watch more such videos about Canada. And with that being said, let's start this video.
Alright, so the very first thing you need to do is just go to a browser, go to google.com, and then just search for Canada visitor visa. And then if you click on that, you'll get to this page where you'll see the first option would most likely be how to apply for a visitor visa. So just click on that. And then if you scroll down on this page, you'll see that there's a question being asked here. Why are you applying for a visitor visa? And based on the type of response you choose here, you'll be prompted to apply through either the GC Key portal or through the new IRCC portal. Now, if you are coming to Canada to meet with a family member, or if your family member stays in Canada, then in that case, it makes sense to select this option. But in case you don't have a family member in Canada and you're just coming to Canada to visit or for tourism purposes, then even in that case, it is fine if you just select this option here, because it will take you to the IRCC portal, and it is much better to apply through the IRCC portal because it is much simpler and much faster if you want to apply for a visitor visa. So whether you're coming to Canada to meet with a family member, or if you just want to come here for tourism purposes, just select this option and click on get instructions. So once you get to this page, just click on yes, and then you need to click on how to apply for visitor visa through the IRCC portal. So once you click on that, you'll be taken to this page, which has all the instructions for how to apply for a visitor visa through the IRCC portal. And you'll see that the first step is to create an account and sign in. The second step is to complete the online form and upload your documents. And the third step is to pay for your visa fee through a credit card, and that's it. And then you need to click on sign up and apply. And on this page, you'll be asked whether you want to apply for a visitor visa for yourself, or you're not applying for yourself, but you're applying for somebody else, maybe your parents or your grandparents or something. Then in that case, you can choose this option. But if you're applying for a visitor visa for yourself and somebody else, maybe someone from your family or something, then it's better if you choose this third option, because in that case, your applications will be grouped together, so you don't have to apply for every single person individually. So in this case, I'll just apply for a visitor visa for myself. And then the next thing it asks you is, do you have an application in process? You just say no. And then this thing just tells you that they'll contact you within 14 to 30 business days after you complete your application. And they will not respond to your inquiries if you have submitted an application within the last 30 business days. Next, you need to click on get an IRCC portal account. So this is actually the first step for your application. So first you need to create your IRCC portal account. And if for some reason you're not able to reach this page, then I've added a link to this website in the description box below. So you can just click on that link and you can straight away go to this page, and then you'll be able to create your IRCC portal account. So just add your email address here and then add it once again for confirmation. And then once you do that, this link will become enabled, and then you can just click on this link to get your invitation to open up an IRCC portal account. So once you click on that, you'll get an invitation code here. So you just need to copy that to clipboard and then continue to the IRCC portal sign up page. And then it'll take you to this sign up page where you first need to enter your invite code, and then you need to enter your email address and a password and confirm that password. Then you need to enter your surname or your last name, and this should exactly match the name that appears on your passport or your identity document. Now this is very important because some people mess this up. They don't put the last name or the surname properly, and that causes an issue with their visa application. So make sure to put this surname or the last name exactly the same as what appears on your passport or your identity document. And then you need to also add your first name or your given name. Now, even though this is optional, but if you have a given name or a first name written on your passport or your identity document, then I would highly recommend you to add that in this field here and provide that information to IRCC. So once you've added your phone number properly, you just need to click on sign up. And then once your email has been verified, you just need to enter your email address again and your password, and then you should be able to sign in to your IRCC portal. And once you sign in, you'll see a terms and conditions page. So make sure to read through this and then click on accept. And then you'll be logged into your IRCC portal account. So in future, if you want to create a visa application, or if you want to pay the fees for your visa application, or if you already have a visa application in process and you want to just complete it, this is a portal that you'll go to. You just need to sign in with your credentials and you should be able to perform all the actions. And right now you can see that there are no applications because we haven't submitted any applications in this new account. And there's nothing to continue working on as well because there's no applications yet. And there aren't any account messages either because we haven't done anything. So what you need to do is just go here and click on apply for a visitor visa, transit visa, or a study permit. So this is where you'll be starting your new visa application. So these are just some general instructions. You can click on the link here to check your eligibility, and you need to have your passport or your valid travel document ready. And you also need a credit card to pay for the application fees. And then you just need to follow all these steps. You need to select what you are applying for and then answer a bunch of questions and then review those answers. And then finally, you'll have to upload your documents and then pay your fees. And that's when your application will be submitted. But one thing to note here is that once you start an application, once you click on the start application button here, you'll have 60 days to complete this application. If you don't complete that application, or if you don't submit that application within 60 days, the system will just delete your information and you'll have to start again. So click on the acknowledgement here and then click on start application. So the first question it asks you is, do you want to apply for more than one person? If you are applying for more than one people, then click on yes. If not, then click on no. So in this case, we'll just click on no. So here you want to specify what do you want to apply for. So in this case, you're applying for a visitor visa. So just click on that. And then you need to answer why do you need a visa, or why are you applying for a visitor visa? So the answer for this will be different for different people depending on your personal situation and why you are actually trying to travel to Canada. If you want to visit Canada as a tourist, then you should click on this option here. But for example, if you're visiting your spouse or your common law partner or a dependent child or a parent, then you should click on this one. And if you're trying to visit your grandparent or your grandchild or your sibling or a half sibling, then you should click on this option. So make sure to read these options very carefully and then decide which one is actually the most suitable one for you, and then proceed accordingly. So in this case, I'm just going to choose to visit Canada as a tourist, and then you need to answer what you'll be doing in Canada. So here you can say that you'll be visiting Canada as a tourist and you'll be traveling to Toronto, Niagara Falls, Vancouver between 3rd of June 2023 and 10th of June 2023. Now this is just an example for you. You need to specify the exact dates and the exact places where you'll be traveling to. If you're visiting a family member, you need to mention that you want to visit a family member, you want to visit your brother or your parents or your grandparents, whatever. Now the next thing is you need to provide the dates when you'll be entering Canada and when you'll be leaving Canada. So if you don't already know the exact dates on when you'll be traveling to Canada and when you'll be returning from Canada, make sure to provide some sort of approximate dates which are also not bizarre. So don't say that you'll be visiting Canada for 6 months or 10 months or whatever. Just mention something that's realistic and reasonable because you don't want the visa officer questioning your intent to come to Canada. So try to answer these questions as appropriately as possible. So next thing it asks you is for the UCI number or the unique client identifier. If you have applied for a Canada visa before, for example, a study permit, work permit, visitor visa, whatever, then you most likely will have a UCI number, and that UCI number will be written on your previous visa or your previous work permit, study permit application. So if you know this, then you should enter that here. If you don't know this, then it's fine. It's an optional thing. You don't have to provide it to IRCC. Alright, so once you fill that form and click on next, and it says you selected visit Canada as a tourist, which is fine. And the documents that you need to complete this application are your valid passport or travel document. And you must have at least one free page on your travel document or on your passport where they'll be able to stick your visitor visa. And then you might also need some other documents depending on how you answer the next questions. And then this is just an overview of the questions that you'll be answering in the next section. So click on continue to application. And this question here, are you applying on behalf of someone else? Now, if you're submitting this application on somebody else's behalf, then you should click on yes. And in that case, you'll also need to provide some additional forms or you need to show that you have the permission to handle their application for them. But if you're applying just for yourself, then it's fine. You just need to click on no. The next section here is your personal details section, and in this section you need to provide the travel document information of the applicant. So again, your surname and your given name. So once again, make sure to enter your surname and your given name exactly how they appear on your passport or your identity document. If you don't have a first name, then you can just leave it blank because it's optional, but you have to provide a surname in that case as well. So make sure to check your passport closely and add the surname that shows up on your passport. Next, you need to provide your date of birth, and then you need to select your gender and then click on save and continue. Next, you need to provide the travel document that you'll be traveling to Canada with. So for most people, it'll just be a passport, but if you have a different travel document, then you can enter that. But for most people, it'll just be your passport. And what kind of passport? Most likely it'll be a regular passport for you. So next, you need to enter your passport number or your travel document number here, and then you need to confirm that number again. Next, you need to enter the date of issue of your passport and then the date of expiry. All this information will be on your passport, so you just need to copy paste that. So these 3 questions you need to answer depending on your specific case. So answer these questions depending on your personal situation. And for the last question, are you traveling to Canada by air? For most people, it'll be yes, but if not, then select no. So I'll just say yes here and then save and continue. Next, you need to enter the country that you were born in. So I'm just going to say India. So I'm just going to say Delhi as an example. And then, are you a citizen of more than one country or territory? If you are, then say yes. If not, then just say no. So which country are you a citizen of? So I'm just going to say India. And I'm a citizen of this country by birth. If not, then you need to select the date that you became a citizen of that country. And then you need to answer if you have a valid national identity document. So what is a national identity document? So for example, if you're from India, then your Aadhaar card could be your national identity document. So depending on which country you're from, your national identity document could be different. But if your country does not provide a national identity document, or if you don't have one, then just click on no. But let's say if you have an Aadhaar card, then just click on yes, and then provide the Aadhaar card number here, and then confirm the document number here, and then add the date of issue, and then also select the country that this document was issued by. So once you do that, just click on save and continue. Next, it asks you, have you used any other names in the past? So I have not used any other names in the past. So I'm just going to say no. But if you have, then click on yes and provide all the relevant details. So now you need to provide the contact information of the applicant. So select your country here, then provide the full address, and then the city or the town. And you need to answer if your mailing address is the same as your residential address. So if it is, then just click on yes. If you click on no, then you'll have to provide a separate mailing address as well. Now this next one is also very important. You need to list the country that you're living in or your country of residence. And then you need to enter all the countries or the territories where you have lived for more than 6 months in the past 5 years. If you've traveled to any other country and you've lived there for more than 6 months, then you'll have to add that here as well. So click on the add button here and then first enter the country of your residence. So I'm going to say India, and then the status is of a citizen, and then select the date when you first became a citizen of that country. And then if you're currently living in that country, so just say yes and then save. And then if you have spent more than 6 months in the past 5 years in any other country, then you should mention that as well. So the next question is for your biometrics, and it'll ask you if you have already given your fingerprints and your photo biometrics, and are they still valid? So if you have given your biometrics in the past 10 years for a visitor visa, study permit, or work permit, and if you know that your biometrics are valid, then you need to say yes. If you're not sure, or if you don't know about this, or if you have never given your biometrics before, then you just need to click on no and then continue. And if you select no, it'll also give you a notification here that you will be required to submit your biometrics after you pay the biometrics fee. So once you submit your application, you will have to go to your nearest visa application center in your city or in your area or in your region, and then give your biometrics over there. So next section is for finances. You need to specify how much money do you have for your stay in Canada. So depending on how long you'll be staying in Canada, you need to provide a reasonable number here. So I'll be adding about $5,000 because that's what I have in my bank account, and I think that'll be enough for the 7 days that I want to visit Canada in this example. And if somebody else is giving you the money for your stay in Canada, for example, if you're visiting your family or if your parents are sponsoring your trip to Canada, then you need to provide those details over here. And if in case you're sponsoring your own stay in Canada or your own trip to Canada, then you just need to say no, because in that case, your finances or your financial statements will be needed by the government of Canada. But if you click on yes, then the person who will be sponsoring your trip to Canada will have to provide their proof of funds or their proof of finances. The next section is for information about your education, work, and other activities. So you need to specify, have you ever studied at a post-secondary institute? For example, if you've been to a college, university, or a vocational school. Now, even if you have visited a college or a university, but you did not complete a degree or a diploma, even in that case, you should say yes. So I'm just going to say yes because I've been to a university. So then you need to enter the details of your school, so the name of your school. So to provide the details, just click on the plus button here, and then you need to add the name of your school or your institute. When did you start studying over there in the from section? And if it is still ongoing, or if you're still a student, then just click on ongoing. And if you have already completed your studies, then just enter the graduation date over here, then enter the level of studies. So for example, if you went to a university for your bachelor's degree, for your master's degree, so just select your level of study, your field of study appropriately, and then enter the address of your institute. So if your institute was in India, then just enter India, and then enter the street address of your university or your college and the town or the city that it's in. And this is an example of how your information will look like once you enter that. And if you've studied at multiple colleges or multiple institutes, or if you've done multiple programs, then make sure to give the details of every single program that you have studied or that you currently are studying. And then you need to provide your work history. So if you've served in the military, then say yes. If not, then just say no. And then you need to give the details of your employment and activities for the past 10 years. You don't have to provide the same information that you did in the previous section, so your post-secondary education or your military or police history. But for all the other time, you need to enter the occupation or the activity that you were doing, and make sure not to leave any other gaps. So for example, let's say if you are a homemaker, then in that case, you can just say you were a homemaker, and then enter your address and your street address in your city or town, and then enter the time duration that you were a homemaker for. So for example, if you've always been a homemaker, then your from date should be let's say 10 years from now. So right now we are in April 2023. So I'm just going to say, let's say 2012 January, and it is still ongoing. So in this case, you'll cover the 10-year duration and there are no gaps. And you can specify that you have been a homemaker for the last 10 years and it's still ongoing. And if it is some other activity, so for example, if you've been retired, so you can mention that. If you have a business or if you're unemployed, then you can also mention those things. So whatever your situation is, whatever occupation you have, and whatever positions you've held before, or whatever activities you've done in the last 10 years, make sure to mention all of them in this section. Similarly, if you're working in a job, then you can just enter the type of occupation that you had. So for example, natural and applied sciences and related occupations. And then my job title, for example, here is something related to computers. So computer information systems professional, just select that, enter the name of your employer or the company that you're working for, and then the main duties or the responsibilities that you have in your job, and then the address of your company or your office. Now, even though I've said this before, make sure to not leave any gaps when talking about your employment history in the last 10 years. So whatever positions you've held in the last 10 years, whether you were retired, whether you were a homemaker, whether you were doing multiple jobs, whether you were in government service or whatever, you need to enter all those types of jobs or all those activities in order and also without leaving any gaps. So once you're done with that, once you're satisfied with the information that you've entered, then click on save and continue. The next thing it asks you is, have you traveled to any other countries in the last 5 years other than the country that you're living now or that you're the citizen of? So if you have traveled to any other country, then click on yes. And then you need to provide again the information about all the countries that you've traveled to in the past 5 years. So you need to click on this plus button here and then add the from dates, to dates, the countries that you've visited, and the purpose of your travel. And make sure to follow these instructions when adding any new entries to your travel history. But if you haven't traveled to any other country in the past 5 years, then just click on no, and then you can just save and continue. So for this one, have you ever stayed in Canada beyond the validity of your status, or attended a school in Canada without authorization, or worked without authorization in Canada? So depending on your personal situation, answer yes or no. If you select yes, then you'll have to provide some additional details. But if you select no, then you don't have to provide any details. Next, you need to answer if you've ever been refused a visa or a work permit, or denied entry to or ordered to leave any country or territory. So if you have gotten a visa refusal in the past, not only for Canada, but for any country in the world, then you need to select yes, and then you need to provide the appropriate information on what happened and why. And this will help the visa officers with processing your application. Make sure to answer this question specifically honestly, because if you don't answer this honestly, and if you say no, and if you had gotten a visa refusal in the past, then your application for Canada will also get rejected. And then for the security questions, you need to answer all these questions based on your personal situation. So depending on what your personal situation is and depending on what your past experience has been, you need to answer yes or no. And if you select yes for any of these questions, you'll need to provide the details appropriately. And then there are some additional security and criminality questions as well. So make sure to read these properly and answer according to your situation. This next question is about your medical background or your medical history. So if you have ever had a medical exam performed by an IRCC authorized panel physician or a doctor within the last 12 months, then you need to say yes. And then you need to provide the IME number or the UMI number of the medical exam that you've had. So if this is the case for you, then enter that information. If not, then just click on no and save and continue. And then there are some additional medical background questions. So make sure to read these questions in detail as well and then answer according to your personal situation. Same thing for these medical questions as well. Just answer based on your situation. So I'm just going to say no for all of these. Next thing is you need to provide your family information. So starting with your marital status, depending on whether you're single, separated, widowed, married, whatever. So I'm just going to say single for now. Do you have any biological, adopted or stepchildren? So depending on your situation, just answer yes or no. I'm just going to say no for now. And I understand that I'm not declaring any natural, adopted or stepchildren, so that's fine. Save and continue. Next, you need to provide information about your parents. So click on the plus button here. So for both your parents, you need to enter their surname, their given name, their relationship with you, their date of birth, and if they are deceased, then check this button here and then enter their date of death. And then you need to enter their country or territory of birth, their present occupation, and do they have the same address as you? If they do, then just click on yes. If they don't, then you need to enter their address. And you need to also mention if this parent will be coming with you to Canada or not. If they will be coming with you to Canada, then you'll have to submit their application as well. But if not, then you just need to say no. So next you need to answer some questions about language of the applicant. So you need to mention your native language or your mother tongue. So in this case, I'm just going to say Hindi. Can you communicate in English or French? Yes, English. What language do you want us to use to contact you? So in this case, I'm just going to say English. So answer these questions based on your situation as well, and then click on save and continue. And then you need to enter the email address of the applicant. So just enter your email address here and just confirm your email address again, and then save and continue. And then you need to provide your telephone number. So click on plus. So once you've added your phone number here, just click on save and continue once again. So this next page will include a summary of your information. So basically all the details that you've provided so far and all the information that you've added to your application form, you'll be able to review all those things on this very page. And make sure to read through this section very carefully because it'll tell you how you can actually review your answers and correct your answers if there are any mistakes. And if you scroll down, you'll be able to see all the different sections that you had filled as part of this application. And if you click on this expand all button, it'll expand all the different sections so that you can view all the different questions and the answers that you have submitted so far. So make sure to review all these answers very carefully, very thoroughly before proceeding, because if you make any mistakes or if you miss any important details, then it might delay your visa application significantly or even lead to a visa rejection. So make sure to go through all these answers and all these questions very thoroughly. And if you think that anything's missing or if anything's incorrect, then click on the edit button right next to that section and it'll take you directly to that specific section and enter any details that you think are missing. And once you're fully confident that you have submitted the right information and your information is actually complete, only then you need to scroll all the way to the bottom of this page and then click on save and continue. So once you click on save and continue, it will take you to the next page. So this is a list of all the documents that you need to provide in order to support your application. And here they've mentioned some rules that you need to follow when uploading your documents. So the size limit is 2 megabytes per file. So if you have 4 documents to submit, each document can be maximum of 2 megabytes. And the accepted file formats include all these ones. And if your file size is bigger than 2 MBs or if you have to provide multiple documents, you need to make sure that all those are compressed to under 2 MBs per file. And if you have multiple documents that you want to submit as part of a single requirement, then you need to make sure that you club all those documents and put them in one single PDF. So now these are all the different supporting documents that are required, and there are some optional documents as well. So the first required document is your passport or your travel document, and here there's a list of all the different things that your travel document or your passport needs to have. So for example, if you have a passport, then you must provide a copy of the page that shows your birth date and your country of origin, and you need to include all the pages with any stamps, visas or markings. So basically every single page of your passport needs to be on this PDF, and you need to combine all those pages into one single PDF and then upload that through this link here. And if you click on the add file button here, you'll be able to upload a document from your computer. The next document that I need to submit in this specific case is my proof of funds. Since in this case I said that I'll be sponsoring my own trip to Canada, so nobody else will be paying for my stay or for my trip to Canada. In that case, I need to submit my bank statements for the past 4 months, and I need to have a large enough amount on my bank statements, combined bank statements, to cover all reasonable expenses while I'm in Canada. So since I said that I'll be in Canada for almost 7 days, so in this case, I think about $5,000, $6,000 should be enough. But the more amount you have in your bank accounts, the more confidence it will give the visa officer to process your visa application, and they'll be able to trust you easily that you are a valid visitor and you won't overstay your visa or you won't misuse your visitor visa. You can also show a certified check, a bank draft or a money order showing a large amount sum to cover all your reasonable expenses in Canada. You can also show written statements that a processing officer will be able to confirm. And in addition to these, I would recommend you to submit any additional proof of funds that you can provide. For example, if you own certain properties in India or in your home country, you should add that. If you have any additional assets, maybe you invest in the stock market, or if you have any mutual funds or fixed deposits or anything. So the more number of proof of funds you can provide, the better it is for your application, because again, as I said, it'll give the visa officer the confidence that you are a valid visitor and that you have the funds to support your stay in Canada or support your trip to Canada and cover all your expenses by yourself. But on the other hand, if somebody else is paying for your trip to Canada or sponsoring your trip to Canada, then you need to make sure that you provide as many proofs as possible out of all these different options listed here. Once again, in this case as well, the more number of proofs you provide, the better it will be for your application. Oh, and one more thing, that if somebody else is sponsoring your trip to Canada, it is very important that that person must also provide an evidence of their relationship to you. So depending on the type of relationship you have, you could provide a copy of your marriage certificate, phone records, birth registration, family documents or photos. So basically anything that proves your relationship to the person who is actually going to sponsor your trip. And now we also have some optional documents here. Now this first one here is completely optional. You don't really have to fill this form, but if you are interested in allowing somebody else to contact IRCC or CBSA and you want them to release information about your case file to that person, maybe it could be your relative or somebody, then you can fill out this form and you can upload it over here. Now the second one here is also very interesting, and it's going to be optional for most number of people, because this one corresponds to a letter of employment from an employer in Canada. Since your intention with this visitor visa application is not to work in Canada, it's just to visit as a tourist or to visit a family member, so you don't really have to worry about this section and you can just ignore it. Now this section is very important in my opinion, because it gives you the opportunity to explain to the visa officer anything that might not be clear from your documents that you're providing or from your visa application itself. For example, if you're trying to visit a family member in Canada, or if somebody is inviting you to come visit them in Canada, then this letter will be a good opportunity for you to describe your situation to the visa officer directly. You can just mention in detail why are you coming to Canada and who is inviting you and why. Similarly, if anything from your documentation or your set of documents is not super clear and you want to clarify that in front of the visa officer, then you also have the opportunity to write a letter to the visa officer directly and just explain your situation to them. This is going to be the place where you provide any reasonings or any clarifications for the answers that you've actually selected. And as I said before, this list of optional documents and the list of required documents can be different for different people based on the information that you've provided in your application form or you've submitted in your application forms, and also depending on your exact situations. And don't be surprised or worried if your list of documents to provide looks a little different from this one, because it varies from case to case, and whatever set of documents you get, Please make sure to provide all that information accurately, and please add as many proofs as possible because that will only make your case stronger. Now, after you submit all these required documents and any of the optional documents, this save and continue button will become enabled for you, and then you can click on that and proceed to the next step. And the next step for you will be to pay your fees for your visa application, and you will need a credit card to pay for your fees. And the last time I checked, the fee for a visitor visa application was approximately $185, and out of these $185, if I'm not wrong, $110 was for your visa application fees and $75 was for your biometrics. So if you've already done your biometrics before for some reason, then in this case you'll only have to pay $110 for the visa application fee. But for most people, you will have to pay about 185 Canadian dollars, which comes out to be around 11,000 Indian rupees. So you don't have to spend 30,000 Indian rupees or $2,000 just to submit your visa application. You can do it all by yourself in just 185 Canadian dollars or 11,000 Indian rupees. So make sure to keep your credit card handy, and once you provide your credit card details and you pay the visa application fees, you'll be taken to the consent and declaration form. And on this form or on this page, you just need to read through the entire declaration and give your consent, and you just need to sign your name. And once you do that, you can just click on submit, and at that point your visa application will be complete and will be submitted to IRCC for processing. And finally, after you submit your completed application, you will receive an email on your registered email address saying that your application has been submitted and received. And for any future updates to your application, you will also be notified through email. The very next step after you submit your completed application is that after a few days, you'll get a letter from the Government of Canada or from IRCC asking you to submit your biometrics. So in that case, you'll have to read through that biometric submission letter and follow all those instructions and go to your nearest visa application center or VAC and get your biometrics done as soon as possible or within the first 30 days of receiving that letter. And once you're done with your biometrics, the next step is to just wait to hear back from IRCC on the result of your application. If they want any additional documents from you or if they want any additional clarification from you, then they'll also let you know. But in most cases, if you submitted everything correctly and if you have a valid case or if you have a valid reason to come to Canada, then the government will just process your application and they will approve your visa, and they will send you a passport request or a PPR, at which point you'll have to follow the instructions given in your PPR letter or your PPR confirmation letter. You will have to schedule your passport for a pickup to be submitted to the Canadian Embassy for a final visa stamping. So don't worry too much about those steps because those instructions will be given to you very specifically. What you need to do here is to just make sure that when you submit your Canada visa application or your tourist visa application, you need to make sure that you're providing all the information very accurately and in detail, and provide as many details as possible so that the visa officer has no confusion, has no doubts about your case, and they can just process your application very quickly. So I hope now you guys know how to submit your tourist visa application for Canada. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to agents, and you don't even have to worry about getting scammed by these random agents because you can submit your visa application to Canada all by yourself. It is very easy, and this step-by-step guide on how to do this will definitely help you out. With that being said, I hope you guys found this video to be useful. Please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I make a lot of useful videos about studying and working in Canada, finding a job in Canada. And I'm sure if you follow my content and if you watch other videos on my channel, you will not be disappointed and you will definitely gain a lot of valuable information. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.